This episode is brought to you by Missouri. Most people only think about buying jewelry for special occasions, but Missouri believes you should celebrate every day, not just the big moments. That you should buy and wear jewelry whenever you want. With responsibly sourced diamonds and 14-karat solid gold styles for every budget, Missouri has something for everyone. They even drop new limited edition products every Monday, so it's easy to find something you'll love and wear forever. Shop now at Missouri, MEJURI.com.
Desjardins Insurance presents Know Your Clients. Playing today is Desjardins agent Janelle.
Let's do this.
Janelle, what did your client Kelly just purchase?
A season ski pass.
So you suggested
Winter tires.
Because?
They'll help her save money on auto insurance.
And?
Ooh. Make winter her wonderland.
You are correct.
Yes.
Switch to a Desjardins insurance agent who gets to know what you really need. Desjardins Insurance. Exclusions and conditions apply.
On March 10th.
He's here in New York. This isn't like any other ghost face.
He's gonna keep coming for us. We need to fight back.
Come on, mother!
Scream. Only in theaters March 10th.
Age of Radio.
You're a teenager. It's the 80s. You're walking around at night. Seems like a scary place, right? Well, luckily, on Elm Street, it's not such a scary place unless you happen to fall asleep. Ladies and gentlemen, on this week's edition of Maury, please welcome to the stage Mr. Frederick Krueger.
Oh, shut up. You don't know me. You don't know me. Sit down. You don't know me. Sit down. Hi, Maury. It's great to be here. It's actually Freddy. You can call me Freddy.
Okay, well, Freddy, what brings you here? I understand it's been a heck of a week for you.
Well, I was, I've been kind of stalking this bitch for the last couple of years, but it's got a little crazy. I'm not only just been in her bed, I've been in her dreams, but now she's saying that, that I'm her kid's dad. I don't think that's the case, because, as you can see, I'm burned over most of my body, and the stuff downstairs it doesn't work really all that well. That came with all that scarring and being burned alive.
Well, Freddie, we've all been there. We've all been where all these things are totally relatable situations. But I do want to tell you, Freddie, that we did pull a fast one on you. We did go ahead and do a paternity test. Do you have anything you want to say before we reveal the results?
No, it's fine. Yeah, that's okay. I'd really rather know, because if it turns out that I am, I'm definitely gonna step up. My dad wasn't there for me when I was a kid, and it kind of messed me up a lot. I murdered some people, I kidnapped some kids and murdered them, and then
right.
And then their parents hunted me down and burnt me alive inside of a boiler room that I worked at. And so I made a deal with some dream demons so I could come back and kill their kids for revenge, but I'd be doing it in their dreams, as you do,
Right. Well, let's hear it for Freddy. What a brave thing to say, Deborah.
Shut up, you don't know me. None of you know me.
Okay, well, all right, Freddy, please focus. We are going to find out right now.
I'm sorry, Maury. Just, I feel I get unfairly judged a lot of the times, just because of all the, the child murdering and the being burnt over like every inch of my body.
Again, all relatable subjects. Freddy, I want to tell you right now, Freddy Krueger, you are not the father.
Oh, yes! See, I f***ing told you! I f***ing told you in your damn face! Every last one of you! Boo! You don't f***ing know me! You don't f***ing know me! I'm out of here!
When I pick a movie, that's when I'm under pressure now. The question always comes back to me, what were they thinking now? Whoa, what were they thinking? What were they thinking?
ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to What Were They Thinking, a podcast about bad to questionable movies. And this week is, I'm going to put this one more in the questionable era. I do, it's one of those movies that I enjoyed while I was younger and have maybe a bit of apology for it. But this week we'll be talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, and of course I'm never doing this sort of thing alone. So with me as always is the Yvonne to my Alice, Brendan. How you doing, buddy?
Wow, and I am not in costume as Yvonne because that would not be okay. But
look, it depends on how far you took the costume.
Okay,
I mean, if
I'm
you were
just
going to wear
clothes.
the body glove,
Sure.
one piece, you're fine. You frizz out your hair, that's even acceptable.
I'm not a current Senate Republican, I'll put it that way.
Right, okay.
Yeah, hey, it's me. I'm here too. We're talking about a movie that's part 5, which already is kind of scary.
Yeah, and not the kind of way that you'd hope for in a horror movie. Just
Has there... Okay, real talk for a second. Besides Star Wars, because part 5 episode... Well, I guess you can get into the whole thing, but let's just say that Star Wars Episode 5 is The Empire Strikes Back, which it is, but technically it's only the second movie. The 5th movie, Attack of the Clones, which is actually pretty bad. But let's just say, besides The Empire Strikes Back and that weird example, has there ever been, like, a genuinely good movie that's, like, part 5? I don't think it exists, right? Friday the 13th may be one of the worst ones.
Yeah. No, I can't think. I mean...
Well, Jaws 5, it's your move.
It's weird, too, because I was thinking... Halloween? Nope. Mm-mm. But the funny thing about that, I just thought of this now, Halloween 4 and 5 kind of run concurrent with the same protagonist, or final girl, if you will, the same way that Nightmare on Elm Street did.
Yeah, this is true.
Alice is in 4 and 5.
Having just watched almost this entire franchise, I still have the remake that everyone loves to go. I was actually shocked that every movie, except for the 6th one, I think, at least takes one character to carry over.
Fast 5.
There, wow, you found it. and full disclosure, I've never seen it, but I know it was. I know it was critically liked more than most of the other ones. I think
it's a pretty fun. It's the first time The Rock shows up, so
franchise Viagra.
Yeah, there you go.
This one, however, not franchise
so
Viagra so much. Yeah.
No. This is actually, I think this was the last Nightmare to be released in the 80s. This came out in 89.
Yeah.
So I would have saw this when I was 11.
Perfect
just
age.
To put everybody, ill at ease about my parents' parenting choices.
To be fair, I probably saw the 4th one when I was around that same age.
Okay.
So all by myself in a house. It was pretty spooky.
I would have seen the 4th one, whatever age when that came out, because full disclosure on this, man, I saw the first one at my cousin's house when I was like I want to say 7 or 8.
Perfect.
I think we've talked about that before. Every single one of them afterwards, I saw them when they came out on video, because my parents were like, if you have nightmares, if you wake us up in the middle of the night, or if you start acting out, you're never renting these movies ever again. So I don't ever recall having nightmares. If I did, I woke.
That you didn't tell them about.
Well, as I say, if I did, I woke up and did not tell them, because you know what? I know part 3's coming, so I want to see that.
Exactly.
So, but yeah, we're talking about 1989's Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Pitter patter, let's get at her. I'm not gonna bore us. Get to the chorus.
Plot.
I am gonna lay out the plot.
So, this is a continuation from part 4, almost absolutely directly. 2 of our returning characters, 3 if you count Alice's dad. Alice and Dan, boyfriend and girlfriend from part 4. They are at the end of their high school career. Pretty sure they should have been at the end of their college career by the looks of everybody in this cast.
Yeah, I don't think there was a single person in this movie who looked to be high school age.
Right. Tragedy befalls poor Dan. Alice finds out that she is pregnant with his child, but the child is able to dream. And this dream, the dreaming that this child is doing is giving strength back to Freddy Krueger, and he returns from beyond the grave again. Well, I mean, not beyond the grave, beyond beyond the pale. I don't know, because he wasn't physically form killed in the 4th one. He just kind of is back into existence as a dream murderer, and he, of course, goes to town on Alice's body bag fillers. I mean, friends. And of course, we get to meet Freddy's mom in this one, and they've got to find a way to kill Freddy by freeing her remains from the asylum that she's trapped in. And Alice has got to figure out how to reconcile how she's talking to her kid, who is 10 years old in her dreams.
Oh my God.
Hilarity ensues.
So much is in this movie. So much.
I'll say, man, when this movie first came out and I saw it on video, I loved it. But I mean, at that time, I was just Freddy Krueger was my 80s slasher. Watching it back years later, I remember buying it on VHS when I was in university. When they re-released a bunch of them as the collection, and I got that one and watched it, and I was like, ooh, this not as amazing as I remember it.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, you made the comment about body bag fillers, and I don't want to jump the gun too much, but there is one potential body bag filler that actually surprised me quite a bit once we got to the end of the movie, but I'll just wait till we get there.
We shall, yes. Well, let's. We open with after the New Line Cinemas logo, cause that way you know it's good. What you would be rightly thinking some sort of blue movie, because there's people having sex and there's a blue filter. This is all happening over the credits. This slow, caressing and moving and stuff like that. It's like, okay, we get it. All right. And then we
just 2 teenagers having sex.
Just two teenagers in their late 20s having sex.
It is uncomfortable. It is an uncomfortably long sex scene.
Well, that's the thing. Like, they're doing it so they can play the credits over it too. So
that's what I mean.
Why would you do that?
Could you find nothing else to do the opening credits?
It's weird too, because these movies, such as they are not known for any sort of tenderness, really. So to see this in this movie is definitely a jarring shift, especially if you're watching, the other ones. I mean, we talked about part 2. I think the tenderest thing in that was the love of the young man and his miniature baseball bat as he's cleaning his room.
I was gonna say, or Mark and his best friend. That poor guy.
Also true, yeah. But so after that's all done, you find out that it's Dan and Alice. They're back.
They're back and they're banging.
Right. And I'm assuming they never stopped, because they were boyfriend and girlfriend when the 4th one ended.
As soon as part 4 ended, as soon as I left that fountain, I think that's how it ended. They went straight to the bedroom, and they've just been straight fucking since then.
Straight to Pound Town, that's right. She gets up, and she's like, she's gonna go take a shower, as you do after you've, had sex in the mid-afternoon. And it turns into a poop shower, and the right away, like the shower starts clogging and filling up, and it's got all this brown, gross, backed up water. See, if that were me, I would open the shower door and get out and turn the water off and say something's wrong with the shower. Does Alice do this? No. She sticks her hand down the drain.
But is at this
where
point
all the poop water's coming from?
At this point, she's already asleep, right? Like, even if she tried to open it, it would probably
full disclosure, this is a dream. So, but I mean, I feel that even in a dream, weird things happen around you, but more often than not, you react the way you would react.
Mm-hmm.
So for her to stick her hand down the drain, would she do that? Is she studying plumbing in high school? Is that an elective that she's taking when she graduates to high school at the age of 26? Will she be going on to study plumbing?
She wants to know where she's a big fan of the movie Envy, which no one saw. She wants to know, where does the shit go?
Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Case in point, I mentioned the movie Envy, and Nathan just says, okay.
Sure. Oh, take your word for it.
It's a Ben Stiller, Jack Black comedy that made $7 million, I think.
Okay. Off of what kind of budget?
More than that.
Okay. So the shower, this stand-up shower, is filling with water, and she's trying to get out. There's all kinds of body double action going on here. Gesundheit. There's all kinds of body double action going on here. And Alice, or Alice's body double, does manage to bust through the glass shower door, and she wakes up in the writer's room at Fox News. And by that, I mean an insane asylum filled with filthy, filthy lunatics.
Filthy white men is what you're the writing room of Fox News, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I almost said dirty white boy. I was like, that's a solid wrestling reference.
Got it in, secured.
TL Hopper.
Which, by the way, I gotta say, it looks like every single person was given. I know they're all supposed to be a little bit different from each other, but it looks like they were all given a different stage direction. It just looks like they're all heading in a different path, and
because they're insane. Every last one of them.
I get that. It looks like undirected extras.
And it's interesting too, because as you're watching it, you're seeing all these feral extras, and you just catch a glimpse, and Robert Englund is in the crowd. So you're like, oh, they will say that Freddy Krueger was the bastard son of 100 maniacs, but it was really just that one.
Right.
And I'd like to clarify earlier, when I said the Fox writing room, I meant they're filthy white lunatics who feel that they can do whatever they want with women and give them no choice whatsoever.
Yes, that is. I believe that's on their business card.
It's a bit wordy. I think they put it on the other side.
But Patrick Bateman saw it and he was like, "It's impressive nonetheless."
Ooh. Okay, so she's wandering around, but the lunatics aren't paying any real attention to her. There's a couple of dudes up top who are taking count. Now, this is 89, and I'm trying to think. Nightmare, first one came out 85, 84? 84, okay. So that would mean, if how old would you say Freddy would he been when he died? would this be an accurate representation of a mental hospital in, say, the 50s or late 40s in the U.S.?
Well, is this supposed to be his father in there?
Yes, because this is a kind of glimpse of his origin story. They've talked about how Freddy was conceived. I think in part 3 they talk about it, and this was where we kind of get to see it, because what we're seeing right now is the dudes who are doing their head count and stuff like that. That's the mental asylum. They leave Amanda Kruger, because we see. We flashed back to Alice, and she's got a name tag on. This is Amanda Kruger, and she's in a nun's habit. As they leave her locked in the insane asylum over the weekend, which, I mean, weird staffing choices that you just lock people in a room for 48 hours all clumped together with like no food or anything like that.
Well, I mean, what is this supposed to be, the 50s, you said?
I'm thinking early 50s or late 40s.
If American Horror Story Asylum taught me anything, it's that they probably weren't treated super well. If Sucker Punch taught us anything,
is don't watch Sucker Punch.
Is don't watch this movie. It's bad.
Right. Yeah. But okay, so all that aside, she is of course left in there over the weekend. Thankfully, we don't get to see like her getting raped over and over and over again. Because
yeah, I'm
that's
glad
part
that
of
was
the
on
story.
the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
I don't think I needed 100.
Tom Six did not direct. So
no. If Tom Six, oh my God, Tom Six's Nightmare on Elm Street 5, there would be 100 rape scenes back to back.
Yeah, just rape after rape after rape. But
then Freddy would have never existed because he probably would have squished under a gas pedal or something.
Right. So, Alice wakes up from this dream, and then we kind of cut to the graduation ceremony. Dan is giving the valedictory speech, which probably one of the most unbelievable things in this movie is that Dan is the valedictorian.
He also has, but he does have hilarious joke glasses, though.
Right, so he could say, "Let's blow this pop stand."
And I also thought, before I realized that was graduation music, I thought the Macho Man was going to make a run-in.
Ooh, dig it!
Don't fall asleep, kids. Wait, you're not kids.
You're easily in your 30s.
Some of you are older than the Macho Man.
Of course, this is where we meet Alice's friends / the body bag fillers. We meet Greta, whose mother is like just super. I don't know. She's not overprotective. Bourgeois. There you go. That's yeah. She's obsessed with Greta remaining slim and trim and gonna be a supermodel and gnashing her teeth with the paparazzi, as she says, and looking as pretty perfect as she possibly can. We also meet Mark, who has designs on Greta and is, for a guy in his late 20s, still in high school, still kind of sweet because he's got his little his lollipop and he's trying to, he's kind of sweet talking or trying to sweet talk Greta, but being funny. He's into comic books. We meet Yvonne, who is on the diving team.
Yeah, she's also like a hospital volunteer, I think.
Yes, she's a candy striper as well. She is the one who is going to set them up with the pool for the graduation after party because the coach gives her. I don't know why the coach is still giving her the keys if she's graduating, but there it is. And of course, we've already met Dan, and we also meet a couple of cliched parents in Mark's dad and Greta's mom.
Yeah, Mark's dad, who is just like a coach dad, basically. Or
no,
sorry,
that's
I'm thinking
Dan's
of Dan's dad.
Dan's dad is the coach dad. Mark's dad is the
my son's a lovable screw up. Hey, aren't you little screw up? All you're doing is drawing and stuff.
I thought for a second that when I first watched this, I thought Mark was coded as the gay friend at first.
Oh, you would be
very
right
80s for him to have like colors in his hair, for him to kind of be a little bit effeminate and over the top.
That haircut that he has was actually pretty popular at the time. You got Charlie Schlater and who else was rocking that kind of do at the time?
John Malkovich.
I was gonna say Zach Morris, but I think that's a little too later.
Marlon
Anyways, that whole
Brando.
flip do with the dye and the really loud Zubas essentially that he's wearing.
Yeah, he looks like if he was in better shape, he'd look like a wrestler.
There you go.
He just needed a fanny pack.
We do find out we get to see Alice's dad, who has sobered up considerably since part 4, after his son Rick died. He shows up, but he doesn't get up right up to see Alice, because he still feels self-conscious about his drinking and everything like that. Gives her a camera so they can, they're going to go take pictures and stuff like that. As you said, we met Dan's dad earlier.
He's a creep.
He's the coach dad, typical coach dad, trying to get his son a free ride to a university, and he's actually invited a scout to come and talk to his son, which is not how scouting works.
No, I don't think you watched their valedictorian speech to scout their performance.
That scout should have been there in, say, September or October to watch Dan play football.
Also,
if it's indeed a football coach.
Also, Dan's father, just the way he delivers this line, he shows up and the first thing he says to Alice is like, "Alice, you look sweet today." And I just thought that was, I thought it was so off-putting that I thought the movie was going to point it out at some point. Like, he was going to make some weird advance towards, his son's girlfriend.
That didn't happen, thankfully.
Although I also thought Alice's dad's introduction was a little creepy, too, because I forgot who he was from the 4th one. And I thought, I was like, oh, is this just some homeless drunk person she's befriended?
Homeless sober person.
Well, okay, homeless alcoholic, I guess. Because she's like, oh, I'm so proud of you for cleaning up. You're doing so good. And I'm like, who is this?
So, my next note actually is to do, they all get together for a group photo with the parents and the kids. And for some reason, the football scout gets in the picture and sits down and poses and everything. What social cue tells you all these people who know each other and are family, I should just sit in on their group photo of their children graduating? Okay, so Alice can't stick around for the party, the pool party that's gonna be had. She's got to get to work, so she's trucking off to work. She's going through a playground at a school, or it could just be a park, and we hear the 1-2 Freddy's coming for you.
Oh wow! In this movie too, it's very rare you hear it in these movies.
Yeah, right.
I think I think it's in every single one, right? It's got to be.
Yeah.
I'm sure they even did a version of it in the newest one too.
I would hope to God they did, because that all that thing was fan service,
or
trying
it was
to be anyways.
Or it was like a gritty version, like Guar showed up or something.
Drowning Pool sings the Freddy song.
Let the Freddy hit the dreams. Let the Freddy hit the dreams.
So okay, so she obviously, I don't know, I guess fell asleep at some point as she was walking to work.
Everyone has narcolepsy in these movies.
Everyone. All this stuff is going on, knowing that what happens is a dream. I'm just imagining her just walking through the park, going to work, and then just boom, passing full out into dream state.
Out.
Honest to God, I don't know about you, but when I go to bed to go to sleep at night, it takes probably a good anywhere from 15 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on what's going on in the old noodle, for me to fall out completely and to get to dream state.
It, at the very, very, very least, it has never taken less than 5 to 10 minutes. If I'm really, really tired, it still takes 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's never just boom, out.
Boom, out. Yeah, exactly. And even if you do, I've had it happen, on a Sunday afternoon, fall asleep on the couch. It's not one of those things where it happens right away. You're kind of fighting it a bit. It's just, but I'm guessing she is lying in a sandbox in a park somewhere while all of this is going on.
Right, and nobody thinks to be like, hey, should we wake up that woman that's passed out in the middle of the park?
So we get that 1-2 Freddy's coming for you sequence, things getting all dark and creepy and stuff like that, and lo and behold, there's a giant matte painting that appears.
Oh, maybe she should go into it.
Then she starts running toward us, and I'm like, don't, you'll wreck the canvas.
Get some Animaniacs moment where she just gets caught up in the paper and it rolls up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Old Castle Kruger she's heading towards.
Yep. Yeah, and so she does end up in the old the Nutter house again, but this time she is now witnessing the birth of Freddy. And we see that the doctors are wheeling her in, actually at first, and then of course at one point it jumps from her being on the gurney to Amanda being on the gurney, and she's giving birth. And they one of the nuns takes it, and she's just appalled just at the sight of the thing. It says, "Take solace, child. It's a creature. It's one of God's creatures."
This movie has an interesting take on birth,
right?
Which we'll get. There's another thing that comes up later that I was like, oh,
this baby, which looks like it's straight off of like, I don't know, like a Cannibal Corpse album cover, scurries away. They try to catch it. It's dragging afterbirth behind it. They go into the chapel where Alice defeated Freddy in the fourth one. The baby thing finds Freddy's clothes, crawls into it, and then a magical metamorphosis begins where he grows to be a 40-year-old man in what, half a minute?
It's I wrote down it's almost like I think this was Malignant when he was a baby. And also, well, and then as soon as he becomes the 40-year-old man,
it's a boy.
That's right. We get his first appearance and first line, and we're like, oh, Jokey Freddy. Jokey Freddy is back.
It is. If you thought Part 4 had a quippy Fred, this one here, it's almost done to a shameless degree, only outdone by Freddy's Dead. Yeah. As the series get on and on, we got to give him the one-liners, get him the one-liners. That became so much more important than the actual movies that it's beyond farcical. And when it comes, the sixth is my least favorite one, and a lot of people are like, that's the one you find out is all that stuff about Freddy. I'm like, I knew all that shit about Freddy before they made the movie.
I mean, yeah, I don't think 6 is held in a very high regard, though.
No, it's not. You got that whole Roseanne and Tom Arnold cameo.
That was the scariest part of the movie.
Because she's full on, like, they're full on Stepford people at that point.
Yeah.
In that movie.
When they showed up, I was like, oh, it is a horror movie.
Anyhow.
Isn't this where we get, like, the whole idea of, like, they've got to release the Amanda from her earthly prison?
Yeah, because Al, like, he's there and he's menacing and things like that, but then Amanda shows up, the door opens, and Amanda Kruger's there, and Freddy won't go out of that chapel area because she's out there because he's kind of afraid of her, and she even says something to the fact that you're not gonna win. I won't let you wreak havoc, something like that. And he says, "We'll see about that, bitch." And I was like, Frederick Rutherford Krueger, that is no way to speak to your mother.
What are you gonna do about it, bitch?
He will never learn. Never learn.
Bitch, bitch, bitch.
It's at this point that Alice, she manages to escape the dream, but runs into her work. So was she like sleep running?
If we attempt for a minute to make sense of some of this stuff, it's not gonna make any more sense, because I didn't understand that either. There were so many parts where I was like, what is happening in the real world right now?
Because that's the thing, like, even in all of the other movies, the idea of someone going into the dream, meaning they're falling asleep, but the corporeal being is still on the outside world. There's nobody who, like, walks through a door and is into the dream. The only time you get some sort of weird body thing is at part 2.
Yeah, and that's the best
That's
one.
it. Well, it's not the worst.
I think it's my worst.
Number 6. Still my least. Unless you're talking about that remake. Anyhow, so she's late for work, 4 hours late for work. So either she's been sleep running for 4 hours, or she narked out in the park for 4 hours, or maybe 3.5 hours, and then at the last half hour got up and started sleep running. Either way, she gets to work 4 hours late. Her friend or coworker who was pissed off at her says, "Thanks for nada, Alice." I was like, man, I don't think, did people talk like that? I don't remember people talking like that back in the 80s.
Because nada's a pretty cool word, don't you know?
Yeah, thanks for nada. It's
yeah.
Like, most people just say thanks for nothing.
You gotta sometimes you gotta reach across the table. You gotta pull in other cultures. You know, it's the 80s. Things are changing.
Right. Okay. So Alice is now at work, and she manages to get a hold of Dan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how, because he doesn't have a cell phone.
Well, she calls the pool phone. And,
as you do, right?
Yeah,
right.
Because they're all hanging out by the pool. We also established
that's the sort of thing that you know off the top of your head. Is I remember the number to the phone at the pool at my high school.
Yeah, well, everybody gets the pool phone number because you never know when you're gonna have to call the pool, right?
Right. So Dan is like, I'm on my way, and he takes off. Mark makes a delightful joke about Dan being the fastest man on 3 legs. So, I mean, your thing about Mark earlier, there could be some truth to it. He might be bi. I mean,
maybe.
We also find out in this scene that Mark is not a fan of blood.
No, but he does like drawing it in his comic books.
Yeah. So he okay, so this whole thing, this next sequence, if Alice is falling asleep for 3.5 hours in the park and then sleep running for a half an hour makes little sense. Boy howdy, wait till this next part. Dan gets in the truck and starts driving. And of course, he's listening to the radio. It's a talk radio, and all of a sudden, his mom's on the radio calling him an insufferable little brat who's dating some trollop who's, all she wants to do is screw him and things like that. And he's like, "Mom?" And of course, Freddy is the host of the talk radio show.
Right.
So he has fallen asleep. This makes me think, okay, he fell asleep at the wheel. That's what's going to kill him. That's not what kills him.
Nope.
He does start, the truck starts kind of taking over. Freddy's there in the British side driving, rips off his own arm, turns that into a seatbelt, crashes the truck. Dan crashes through the windshield, but instead of crashing out through the windshield and into a tree or something, which would make sense because if he fell asleep at the wheel, no. He crashes through the glass at the pool where everybody has left. And then he runs out and he can't get in because the truck's all messed up and he doesn't have the keys. So he's going to take a bike, and the bike turns into like a giant mech that starts, injecting wires and parts of the bike into him and turning him into like a cyborg that's part bike, part Dan.
Well, if anybody has seen there's a Japanese horror movie called Tetsuo the Iron Man. Mm-hmm. It's pretty much that. It's like in that movie, this guy basically slowly becomes more and more metal. Like he just has like a piece of iron, and then suddenly like things are coming out of his body and they're like connecting, and by the end of it, his dick is just like a big swinging like piece of steel. Like it's crazy. It reminded me a lot of that, actually.
Okay, so Dan is now sleep driving the bike because there's times where we see Dan driving the bike, but then we also see, the dream thing that's going on with him. And he crashes this bike into a transport truck. So when? Why? What?
How?
Huh?
Where? Who?
Out in front of the diner, apparently, because Alice hears the accident of this really convoluted thing. Like, they should have, for the sake of simplicity, just fell asleep at the wheel. Boom, done.
Well, yeah, I don't know why. Like, his dream sequence was also far too long for him to have just fallen asleep at the wheel and died in a head-on collision.
Well, but I mean, there is an aspect of Freddy's, dream magic that he can control some stuff in the real world.
Sure.
So if he just fell asleep at the wheel and Freddy managed to, drive the truck to get it close enough to the diner so that Dan hits the transport truck with his pickup truck and dies that way, cool. Fine. That's fine. All the other stuff, him driving it and then crashing through the windshield and landing back at the pool and then having to take the bike to go, it's too much. It's too much. And the weird thing about it is that scene, actually, they had to trim and cut that scene specifically, and a few other ones, to avoid getting an NC-17 rating for this movie.
Yeah, I think that was happening with this and the Jason movies during this time period quite a bit.
So,
wow, how times have changed, though. You get away.
Right.
This is so tame now.
Yeah, and actually kind of laughable.
Yeah.
Because, at one point, the gas tank section of the bike turns into Freddy's face. And he's like, "This boy feels the need for speed."
Mm-hmm.
Like his dad said to the football scout guy. But as we said, the poor guy, he crashes after saying to Dan the positive life advice, don't dream and drive.
Right.
Yeah. And then he dies. There's the truck driver who Dan crashed into is dressed like Freddy because, hey, that's hilarious.
That was weird, right? I thought the bit
They've done that before, though.
But I thought the bit, yeah, no, I know, but I really did think the bit there was that Alice was going to go out and see this guy, and this guy's going to dress like Freddy, and then it was just going to turn out to be Freddy and fuck with her again. But, the fact that it was just that guy dressed like Freddy, I was like, oh, okay.
And then Dan utters the immortal line in Freddy's voice, "Hey, Alice, want to make babies?" and then dies. So now with Dan dead and Alice having witnessed it, she's hysterical. So they take her to the hospital, and when she wakes up, of course, she finds out that not only is Dan dead, but the video Armageddon host from The Wizard, who is her OBGYN in this movie, tells her that she's pregnant.
Yeah, he's so reductive at one point, though. I thought he was just going to be like, at some point I thought he was just going to be like, "Oh, it's probably just your period," or something like that. He just seemed so "Oh, this woman's freaking out on me. It's probably just hormones."
Well, it's funny you say that he's, I don't know, ineffective, I guess.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term, because there's later when he's given some science on babies and their sleep cycles and things like that, and I'm like, she just found out. If we're to believe that she got pregnant in that opening credits sequence, which happened the day before or even the day of their graduation ceremony, it's a clump of cells. It's not dreaming anything.
Right, exactly.
But we'll get to that when we get to that. So yeah, she's pregnant. And oh my God. As she is I guess recovering from all of this, she wakes up in the night and there's a small boy named Jacob, who she encounters, who's a very sad looking little fella.
Mm-hmm.
He's so woebegone, and she has a bit of a kind of, I don't know, exchange with him, and she goes to see him, and of course he's gone. He's not there. We cut to poor Greta, who is, obviously she's mourning her friend Dan, and her mother is being shrill and awful. I found with the supporting characters, the earlier on in the movie that they get bumped off, the broader and or thinner, I guess, their characters' kind of development is, because other than we find out that Greta's mom is obsessive over her looks and her social standing, and Greta kind of resents her for it. That's the beginning and the end of their character development.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's got a bunch of dolls though too. So I suppose there's that. So she's resentful and kind of creepy because there's a lot of porcelain dolls. Like that sort of stuff happens in other horror movies, about dolls that kill people.
Yeah, usually the dolls are part of the plot, right?
Yeah, not in this case. One of them just gets broke, and that's kind of that.
And eaten later.
Well, that's later, yeah. Oh, God.
At this point, though, I wrote down, so when she talks to that boy Jacob, she finds out that there's no children's wing at this hospital, and there's no boy that could have been there. And I wrote down, holy shit, is this going to be her fucking fetus or whatever it is right now, clump of cells in dream form? What?
See, that wasn't the part that I noted. It was the fact that her friend Yvonne, because she tells Yvonne about the boy Jacob that she met the night before, she's like, we don't have a kids ward. And she's okay, well, he must have just wandered in off of one of the other floors because, kids still go to hospitals even if there isn't a dedicated pediatrics ward. We're led to believe that children are not welcome at this hospital.
They're not. No kids.
No kids
allowed.
Whatsoever at that hospital.
It's as if the hospital is like a clubhouse that you'd build as a kid, but instead of no girls allowed, it's just no kids allowed.
Like, what? Welcome to St. Ignatius Hospital. Our motto, F them kids.
Yeah. Yeah, they co-sponsored by NAMBLA.
Different F. Unless you're talking about the North American Marlon Brando Lookalike Association.
No, not that one. There was a lot of confusion over the F though. You're right.
Oh, right.
Okay. It's an ongoing litigation.
Yeah. Alice gets all of her friends together for a dream conference, knowing that the only person who can back up her story is dead in Dan. She tries to convince all of her friends that this man that they've never heard of is going to try to kill her and them in her dreams. They rightfully think that she is insane,
right?
And they don't believe her at all. So she I don't want to say alienates, but I mean they're just like, okay, Alice is under a lot of shit. Let's just maybe humor her a little bit, but not lean too much into it.
They mostly ask about her baby.
They do, yes. And so after that, Yvonne, she leaves. She's got to go to work. She's upset about all this stuff. Alice goes home, and she asks for her dad if he's disappointed. He's not. He's looking forward to he's hoping it's a grandson. It'd be nice to hear a boy playing around the house again because we need to be reminded that that Rick, Alice's brother, and her dad's son, died at the hands of Freddy in part 4.
But as her dad says, just don't make a habit out of it. So, I was like, weird light humor at that situation.
It's like, well, yeah, you're gonna get as big as a house, and your vagina's never gonna be the same again. But don't make a habit out of it.
Don't make a habit out of it, you little stinker.
Quit banging people. The next scene is another scene that again got trimmed and cut. Greta's death scene, because we get she's at a dinner table. Her mother is hosting a dinner party, which it made the dinner party in Stars and Bars seem roomy. Mm-hmm. Like it was really a really cramped room, and everybody's like sitting elbow to elbow and eating, and they're doing that whole typical Dynasty 80s darling lovey, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And much like in The Rage Carry 2, there's a line about how the character that died was no one special, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, he wasn't anyone. Like Greta's mother.
He wasn't anyone. He wasn't no one special. No one she was dating.
Yeah, no one she was dating, and he wasn't like anyone of note, essentially.
Yeah.
And Greta's like, you're the worst.
And she actually kind of has a bit of a flip out at her mom, but at this point, it's got to be happening in the dream, because she flips out at her mom. And all of a sudden, there's a waiter there And you could see that prominent chin. I was like, that's Robert Englund without his Freddy makeup on. I know that chin anywheres. He then, of course, turns into Freddy and starts force-feeding Greta food.
I just picture you, by the way, pointing out Robert Englund and Bruce Campbell in crowds all the time.
Yes.
Just by chin.
Jay Leno. Mostly so I could run away.
No, let me tell you about President Bush. No!
Get the fuck out of here. Conan was better!
Paris Hilton likes to sleep with a lot of people. Okay, no!
Even Judge Ito. Anyhow.
I can't make jokes about Michael Jackson, remember? Remember that whole thing?
So, he's force-feeding her, and this is causing her to choke. I'm guessing she fell over face first in her food in real life?
Yeah, well,
she starts choking.
She seems to be choking in real life before she even falls over, right? Because she gets up and she's like, and then like just falls forward, I guess, chokes to death on nothing.
What I'm saying is like she starts choking to death in the dream because her mouth is getting filled with food.
Yeah.
Right? So are we to believe that it's the dream food that's choking her and there's no food in her mouth? Or did she like fall over and inhale some food and that's what's causing her to dream about choking? It's a real chicken and egg situation.
I think she's choking before she hits the table.
We don't get too much time to think about it because Alice gets another vision of death. We forgot to mention that she saw Dan die in the diner before he died out on the street.
Right.
She opens up the fridge at her dad's place. All the food just crumbles and rots away, which is a fun little bit of stop animation effects.
Yeah, it's
not
like
gonna lie.
It's like when you see that. It's like that image of the fox just like rotting away in the woods.
Oh, like from True Blood, yeah. It made me think of like because the way they did it, it made me think of like a Primus video or something from back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then of course Greta is like halfway out of the fridge reaching for Alice with her big chipmunk cheeks because that's what's happening in the dreams. Freddy's filling her up with food and her cheeks are puffing out like a porcelain doll. Of course she's then yanked back, the fridge is shut, and then she dies at the dinner party.
Yeah.
And Mom was super fast to get up and help because she is, honest to goodness, when she starts choking and she's like, in real life and she's standing up and she's like marionetting because her arms are like out and flapping up and down as she's choking. Mm-hmm. Everybody's just standing there watching it for a good 45 seconds, and when she finally does plop over, her mother's like, Greta?
And you do make a good point, because I do remember during the ending credits, there is a credit for Greta created by Jim Henson.
She's a marionette, not a muppet.
Hey, he's a man of many talents.
Yeah.
He was a man of many talents.
He was.
Jim Henson, you should have seen a doctor.
Okay. So they go to see Mark, who is obviously very distraught. His would-be girlfriend has died, and his friend Dan has died. We get kind of a weird, exchange because Mark, at first, when they had the dream conference, Mark is like, nah, you're ridiculous, Alice. You're Looney Tunes. Mm-hmm. Crazy. Now, Greta's dead. Let's listen to this dream theory of yours.
Yvonne is still like, fuck this, though.
No, you're both insane.
And it's hard to argue with her because she has a pretty awesome red hat.
Yeah, well, it's not quite a raspberry beret, but if it was warm, she wouldn't wear much more.
That's right.
So.
It's quite a great hat, though. It might not be quite a raspberry beret, but it is quite a great hat.
But it is probably the kind that you find in a secondhand store.
Yes.
I know I got those in first, but anyhow,
close enough.
Mark is lamenting about the how his comic book creation, the Phantom Prowler, would have handled all this, and he's got this whole setup. Does he live in his dad's warehouse?
This is the 80s trope of when people have these weird apartments that look like warehouses, or like they have like lofts that don't. It just doesn't look like a place where someone lives.
But it's a warehouse. They meet his dad there before they mark, because he's walking him through the warehouse and he says, I think he's back here somewheres. And there's just shelves upon shelves of like boxes and things like that. So I'm thinking, okay, it's his dad's warehouse that he must work at. And then he's created a whole, as you said, apartment situation in and amongst the boxes and shelves. Yeah. And he's put up posters. He's got like a full-on drawing board so he can make his comics and things like that. And not only does he make his own comics there, he's got like stacks and stacks of comics. This is the kind of place that Kotzad would see and he'd be like, oh.
Honestly, it reminds, like, I feel like I've seen like quote unquote homes like this before. Like, I know when I watched The Juror, which is a movie we should probably do one day.
The Rural Juror?
No, unfortunately not. Demi Moore's place in that looks like not a place where someone lives. So I think I've seen this a few times where it's just like, oh, they just found a place they wanted to film and they didn't care if it actually looked like a house.
So Yvonne is left. She's upset because she thinks her friends are crazy, and they do sound kind of crazy. But Alice is filling Mark in on a lot of this stuff, and he's listening, but he's tired because, I mean, obviously, if two friends pass away in such a short period of time, you would be exhausted, absolutely drained. But she says, hold on a second, I'll go make some coffee. I'll be right back. Mm-hmm. When she comes back, he is full on gotten into bed under the covers and went to sleep. That is rude.
I would have loved it if they went full tilt though, and he had like one of those like nightcaps on,
the big nightcaps on.
He's set of like pajamas.
Yeah,
a teddy bear.
I said I'd be right back, Mark. I have the coffee.
You just hear that music that comes on. That's like.
And so we get into his first dream, and I was like, aha, there he is.
Okay, I am glad that I got that right, because I looked at the animation and I said, I think this is like, I'm trying to think of the band. I said, I think it's an Aha music video. So I was right.
Take on me.
And you know what the best part about this whole thing is that Alice looks down and sees him in the picture and walking around, and she's like, oh no, and she quickly draws like a shitty stick person, writes Alice, and then she's in the scene.
He is dreaming.
How?
That is not how that works.
How?
Unless, as you said before, she has some form of narcolepsy that she knows how to trigger.
But she only falls asleep after that.
But that's it. The only way it makes sense, because, well, all right, we do have to talk a bit about part 4 right now, because if you remember in part 4, Kristen, who was played by Tuesday Night and not Patricia Arquette, she has a dream power that she was able to pull her friends into her dreams.
Right.
Okay. And at the end of part 4, Alice has actually incorporated a lot of her deceased friends' dream powers into her persona. So the only thing that I can think of, and they don't explain this. This is just me spitballing and speculating. The Freddy Krueger cinematic universe, that she was doing exactly that. So all she's had to do was draw a stick figure of a girl, label it Alice, and then somehow sleep, and then she is able to go into his dreams.
By the way, I just realized you saying the Freddy Krueger cinematic universe is almost fuck you.
Almost.
It's very close to fuck you. Yeah, I laughed so hard when she started drawing a stick figure. I just wrote Alice. Appeared in the dream. I was like, what? Well, why didn't Nancy do that back in the first one?
And because she doesn't have the dream power that Alice has. Which, okay, this is another thing that takes me, because they're at Nancy's house. And one of the things that bothers me about this series is that house is everyone's like, it's Freddy's house. It's not. That was Nancy's house. Freddy, he had one encounter there. Mm-hmm. But somehow, so I guess he would have 2 encounters there because part 2.
Right.
But I mean, that was Nancy's house. So, but the fact that it keeps being kind of put as Freddy Krueger, it's just a nitpicky thing. But I mean, you know me with these things. Mark has fallen through the floor, and Alice has to reach down and save him.
Mm-hmm.
And she pulls him up, and he sees the blood on his hands, and he faints in the dream, and that wakes him up.
That's how it works, man.
Because then she encounters Jacob.
Right.
And she's like, "What are you doing here? It's a really dangerous place for you. I'm waiting for my friend. He'll be home soon." And I'm like, I don't know, man.
And then I love how she, when they come out of it, she tells Mark, "I have to protect my baby. I have to protect Jacob." And he's like, "You gotta, what, you named the baby already?"
Yeah.
Like the first like logical question that comes up is like, well, wait, hold on. and then we have, no, never mind. Go ahead. And then they go to the doctor again.
Right. And my first note is fucking acid wash. Because Yvonne is taking Alice to see the doctor, Dr. Video Game Armageddon MC.
Right. That's on. It's a long name tag.
It's it's a family one. So
right.
his parents were Orthodox. It's a whole thing that got cut from the movie. But
they had to put on a sash instead of a name tag.
Right. But I mean, it made him feel like the most beautiful doctor in the hospital.
Right. Well, it's weird because he's always walking around with a big bouquet of flowers, and he's always got this guy with a microphone right behind him singing, "There she is."
Dr. Video Game Armageddon MC.
Such lovely tits and a great behind.
But she's wearing a matching acid wash jeans and jean jacket, and I saw it and nearly died of embarrassment for my generation, because that was a thing. Honest to God, was a thing.
Pretty great.
Now I think it's only a thing in like New Jersey.
Now it's probably a thing like ironically.
You know what? I don't buy a lot of that. I think what happens in a lot of situations like that, someone sees it, they like it, somebody makes fun of it, and they're like, no, get it? I'm doing it ironically. It's hilarious. This thing looks awful. Everybody should dress like this.
Well,
I'm just saying. Okay, so we're getting an ultrasound, and again, weeks, not like a week maybe, has passed. And there's a heartbeat? No.
Yeah,
nope.
I don't understand how old this...
I can only assume that a Republican Supreme Court justice wrote this section of the movie.
100%. Especially because of the scene that follows this, in which Mark says, "You ever think that maybe you could just not have the baby?" And it's immediately shot down without a second of thought.
Well, because she asked the doctor in this scene, would the baby be able to dream at this point?
Right.
My answer is no.
No, it's not even a fucking living thing.
Right. But the doctor unequivocally is like, "Oh yeah, no, they'll start dreaming and doing stuff like that. Why is he keeping you up at night?" And that, and it's like, this is some bullshit. So they kind of put together that the baby's dreaming, or the fetus is dreaming, the zygote clump of cells dreaming, is what's brought Freddy back, because he was able to kind of get into the kid's head somehow. But Amanda was able to like fucking John Connors herself into the dream to kind of try to stop Freddy. It's so convoluted.
I feel like they just walked into like a Christian hospital. They had to like one of those things you think is an abortion clinic, but it's like a family care clinic.
Yeah. So as you said, she kind of tells Mark, what her theory on this whole thing is, and he says, "Did you ever think of that?" You know, if you don't have them, no kid, no dreams, bada boom, done.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like a solid plan B.
Hey. Well, and again,
but Mark does know it's her choice.
He does.
She mentions it, and she says, "Thanks, but no thanks."
She says, "No, I can't." But she says, "No, because I heard it. I heard its heartbeat." And I'm like, there would be no heartbeat. And then
No.
I think across the screen it said, "Ted Cruz has approved this message." That was weird.
We got to we get the next scene. Dan's parents have showed up at Alice's place.
This was infuriating.
Right? They wanted to adopt the baby and raise them because, you know, it's also Dan's son, or well, Dan's baby. They don't know if it's a boy or a girl at this point. And they want to raise it to, you know, just to kind of help cope with the loss of their son and stuff like that. You know what? This scene with them just broaching that subject, I'm fine with. I'm fine with that. What I'm not fine with is your doctor called us and told us. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Goodbye, medical license.
Yeah, that would be the end of it. Number one, that, but also like towards the end of the scene where they start getting really possessive and they start saying like, no, I think it's just best if you just give us this baby.
Yeah.
And then she's like, what the fuck? No. You're way too emotional, pregnant lady. There's it's so unusual that you'd be this emotional. Christ, your boyfriend died in a horrible car wreck and you're having a child. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, can't you be like us who lost our son in a horrible car crash and be completely unemotional about the whole thing?
Right.
While yelling at you.
Yeah, and to her dad's defense, he's like, I think you should leave.
Yeah. Who the sober one of the bunch?
Right.
Get out of my house.
Right.
All right. So Mark has to stay awake, which we all know that's not going to happen.
Since Johnny Depp, no one in these movies stays awake when they say they are to stay awake,
or you say they have to stay awake.
Yeah.
So Alice. She goes in, and she starts dreaming about the asylum again. Yvonne, we cut to Yvonne, who's going diving. Mm-hmm. Again, you're not on the high school diving team anymore. You graduated.
She's got the key to the city.
Or at least the city's pool, anyways.
Yeah.
And
gross.
So basically, I'm guessing she fell asleep too, because she starts having nightmares. Fantastic form. By the way, she does a fantastic dive into the smallest puddle.
He does try to like Tetsuo her just like he did with Dan earlier at first because the little like metal things come up.
Oh yeah, the board, the high dive that she's on turns into like a hand.
Yeah,
that's gonna grab her, and she has to like jump off, scissoring her legs and flailing her arms, but does manage to pull off a perfect dive into a puddle, probably about the size of a record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
some really nasty water,
but hardly any splash. So I gave her a 10.
And right here too, I was like, oh okay, Yvonne's death scene. But again, this was a bit shocking.
Yeah, because she pops up. She pops when she actually comes. I don't know, through the water, she pops up, she's in like a cistern or something in like the insane asylum. And there's Freddy wearing a wetsuit, sweater, and pants.
Yep.
Attacking her. But she does manage to evade Freddy. And then we get to see Mark go all take on me again.
Oh, and this is what I've read from a lot of reviews is this is like seen as one of the low points in Nightmare on Elm Street history, is when Mark goes full superhero and Freddy becomes Super Freddy.
Yeah.
It's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
The worst part of it is like Mark is the Phantom Prowler, and he has
sounds
like
a pervert.
Right. It absolutely does. It sounds like a villain.
Yeah.
Really.
Sounds like a villain from like that shitty movie we watched. What the fuck was that? The Spirit.
Yes.
Sounds like a villain from that bullshit.
Yeah. And he's got this weird getup, which makes no sense, really, because his weapons of choice are 2 handguns.
Right.
And he's wearing this big backpack, and the handguns are hooked to the backpack through some sort of hose or something like that. But that's not going to feed bullets into a handgun, especially if they're hooked up at the bottom.
Yeah, it's one thing if he was just going for like the 50s superhero, like the Shadow or something, but he's mixing in with like futuristic
like cyberpunk
shit.
or steampunk.
Yeah, that makes no sense. It makes no like logistical sense. Now, if they had pointed that out, because these are his drawings, right? And if Freddy had been like, "You can't draw for shit," or something like that, I don't know. That might have been fun, but no, they don't.
No, he shoots Freddy a bunch of times, and then Freddy jumps up. He's got a barrel chest, like a John Cena chin, and he's got a big lightning bolt across the front of his shirt, and he's Super Freddy.
Ooh.
And he just takes one big slash out of Mark, and all the color drains out of him, like literally, and onto a puddle on the floor. And of course, Mark dies. Alice wakes up.
Well, and Mark turns into like a piece of paper.
Right.
Like he's like an actual cartoon character on a piece of paper.
Because that's when Freddy slashes him, he turns into that like 2-dimensional Paper Mario thing.
Yeah.
All the there's a big chunk out of his side, and all the color, the paint drains out of the picture.
Right.
He dies. Alice wakes up, and all of the there's a bunch of warehouse shelving has fallen down on top of him. So that's how he died in real life, I guess.
Sure. It's like I don't know why they have to go and like justify their real life death. Just say he killed them in the dream. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like just showed they had a heart attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just it doesn't. It's like they try so hard. I feel like in this one to like justify what would have happened to them in real life.
Yeah. Yvonne shows up because she now believes everything because it's happened to her. So she's like, okay, all right, I understand. I believe now because it actually happened to me. And Alice wants to go with Yvonne so they can go and get Amanda's remains to free them from the tower at the insane asylum. So, it'll kill Freddy, I guess. Sure. And Alice is like, I'm going to go. And her dad's like, no, you're coming with me. 3 of your friends have just died, and you were in close proximity to 2 of them when it happened. You are not right, and of course, you're also pregnant, so you're coming home. Mm-hmm. You're coming home, sweetheart. And she basically puts, Yvonne's on the case. She's gonna go and find the remains of Amanda.
Which again, right here, I'm like, oh, okay, this is Yvonne's death scene coming up.
Yep. Alice cussing out Freddy is just one of the funniest things in this movie. Because she's like, Lisa Wilcox, the girl who plays Alice, in both movies, she comes across as so sweet. She has to fight at the end of part 4, but she's still very much, a sweet and innocent girl. And even in this movie, to a degree that to see her, cursing about Freddy Krueger, it's like when we talked about Will Smith dropping N-bombs in Bad Boys 2.
Very alarming.
Very alarming and really out of place. She of course, she's got to help, so she's got to fall asleep. When she comes into the dream, not only do we get Alice in the insane asylum looking for Freddy, there's also a murder pram. The baby buggy, and it's got like all the spikes and big things sticking out of it. She's trying to find Freddy, but she's also trying to find Jacob, and he's kind of pissed off at her at this point because she's been thinking that she doesn't want him and that. And, this is when she's really, like, sure now that this is her kid. Just unlike you, who was absolutely sure, and myself was absolutely sure as soon as she saw him in the hospital, that's her kid. That's her kid in her dream as a 10-year-old.
Well, yeah, because I was
Freddy
like, who else would that kid be?
Right? Freddy wastes no time in taking Jacob and running away with him into an M.C. Escher drawing.
That part was kind of cool.
It was
the visuals were kind of cool.
I did note Labyrinth did it better.
I mean, yes. I mean, again, another Jim Henson creation.
Yeah.
Much like Greta.
So the M.C. Escher stuff kind of has like a cross section where they end up standing on this like this stained glass floor, and it immediately made me think of like Silent Hill or even like Final Fantasy or something like that. It was a really cool visual. So much so that it's a thing in this movie that I really had to put this. It's better than this movie deserves. the look, the aesthetic. This 1 second, I was like, I'm stopping. That's impressive. Kudos to you. Now back to the garbage.
At this point, I got distracted because there was a big gross spider walking around on my floor, and I had to take care of that. And then,
what did you think of the big green and red tarantulas in the movie then?
Ooh. But then when I looked back at the screen, Freddy and Alice were like melded together, and I was like, Jesus Christ, what did I miss? I looked away for 10 seconds.
The best part is, while that's happening, she even says, this time it's for keeps.
Yeah.
Which I was like, if she had said this time is personal. And I would have been like, you know what? Either way, fuck you, Alice. This time it's for keeps. He murdered your brother and like 3 of your friends in the last movie. Murdered your boyfriend, father to your child, as well as 2 of your other friends. But now you're playing for keeps.
Also, if it was this time it's personal, it's been personal since he killed 2 people in the first movie. Like,
well, I mean, for her, it would be personal since she killed Kristen in part 4.
Right.
So, because they were friends.
Taken over from Patricia Arquette by the not quite as good Tuesday Night.
Tuesday Nights, yeah. Still serviceable.
Apparently, Rennie Harlan's girlfriend at the time, which a lot of people on set thought he was featuring her more because they were together. And I thought, surely he's never featured his girlfriend or wife prominently in a feature film before.
Meanwhile, Long Kiss Goodnight and Cutthroat Island.
Oh, yeah, both movies. I was just thinking Cutthroat Island. At least one of them turned out good.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, so Freddy and Alice become one.
They do, but as this is all happening in the dream, Yvonne is actually, kind of doing her due diligence, and she actually breaks into the asylum, the bricked up wall where Amanda's remains were left, because they never buried her. They apparently just erected a memorial stone. They just left her body in the insane asylum.
And apparently they left her in the middle of a John Woo movie too.
Right, all them doves.
How did the doves? There was no windows. How are the doves alive in there?
I'll tell you one thing about that. I don't know so much about doves, but I know about bats. My parents had a camp, and they would get up into the upper part, and there were no windows up there. So they find a way.
I tell you something. There was one time I walked through UNB, my friend and I, and we walked through there's lots of paths and there's lots of it's not woods, but there's lots of trees and everything, right? And it was at night. And I looked up and I was like, are those birds? And my friend was like, yeah. There's just a bunch of birds. And then we walked through. We got all the way to the other side. And I said, those weren't birds, were they? He said, no, but I didn't want you to fucking have a heart attack. There was 20 bats.
Oh, yeah.
Just if I had known, I don't know what would have happened.
I can still remember as a teenager and a kid playing football and playing Little League. Night games where they'd have the big lights shining down on the field that we're playing at, and if you were on the bench or if you weren't playing, you look up, you could see them flittering around the lights. They're just bats, dude.
When I was a
Super
child,
helpful.
one got into my apartment. I think I was like 8, maybe 7, and it flew at my face.
Okay, well that's
scared the
fair
shit
then, I
out of
guess.
me. I know that they're not they're not outwardly vicious, but I probably just since then, but they just terrify me. But then again, I see videos of them up close, and I'm like, no, they're like little dogs. They're cute.
Yeah. So as as Yvonne breaks through the brick wall and frees Amanda, she turns with a ghostly face and goes, "Thank you." And I was like, you know what? Go fuck yourself.
What a payoff.
Right. And that's the whole thing. All of this stuff, aside from the kid putting on his best Freddy Krueger voice and tricking Freddy, the final encounter is pretty weak sauce.
Well, not only putting on his, I mean, he literally has a burned face like Freddy. The kid, like...
Yeah, but he's in the dream. He's controlling the dream.
Right.
He has dream powers, just like his mother.
I gotta give credit to that kid, though. Like, he does a pretty decent job of, like, trying to do an impression of Freddy. He, like, the child actor delivered the assignment presented.
Yeah. Yep. So he manages to trick Freddy. Amanda shows up. She is now separated. Freddy from his, I guess, grown up being turned him back into a small baby. Jacob himself is now reverted to a real baby. Take that, American Sniper. And they scoop their babies up. Amanda says, "Go, leave with your child now," and she just kind of trots out. And then we cut to, I guess, the final scene where Alice has had the baby and she's at the park with her dad and Yvonne, who survived.
Wild.
A person of color character in a 1980s slasher movie not only survived, but had a key role to play in the defeating of the villain.
And doesn't just show up in the 6th one and die.
Right. And that's another thing. So not only does this movie have that thing going for it, is for something that usually never happened in this genre of film in the 80s, we also you also see that the final girl from 4 and 5 is the same one, and she survived. She's the only character in the Freddy Krueger cinematic universe to have encountered him twice and survived both times.
Because she doesn't come back in part 6.
No. Then that was another thing that bothered me about part 6 was I'd figured, because the way they had been setting things up to kind of run into itself since part 3, and I mean, let's be fair, from part 1, because Nancy returns in part 3. 2 was made, we all know it was kind of a cash grab, and they wanted to make it because they wanted to strike while the iron's hot. But so you got Nancy returning from 1 to 3, Kristen returning from 3 to 4, Alice from 4 to 5, and living through 5. When they were putting out Freddy's Dead, I'm like, okay, well, they're probably going to kill Alice in this one. There's nothing in that movie. There's not a single character, except for Freddy Krueger, that ties back to any of the stuff that happened before.
Well, I'm guessing that Lisa Wilcox was busy with the 4 episodes of Knots Landing and the 7 episodes of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventures, the animated series. She played Missy on Bill and Ted, the cartoon.
Oh, one of the girlfriends.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There was a fun credit in this, because I did watch the credits all the way through for that slammin' rap song. God. But there was a credit in there. Someone got there was a creation team for the Womb with a View / Fetal Canal credit. Because
I forgot about that sequence.
Yeah, whereas at one point Alice is like inside her own vagina, I guess.
Ugh.
It's just, I think she could have just stopped and been like, "Oh, that's what my cervix looks like."
That scene was incredible. I don't even know. It was just like you saw like the Freddy sperm, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
something like that.
And souls were going into her baby. Guys, I know this is gonna shake you to your core. This is a deeply stupid movie.
Yeah. Oh, because he was feeding the souls of Greta and Mark and Dan.
Yeah.
And then we even see Greta later during Mark's one of Mark's dreams where Freddy has cut her and is actually like eating her insides, licking his fingers like she's cake.
Mm-hmm.
Which is apparently another scene that for theatrical, I guess, got trimmed for it to avoid the old NC-17 thing. But yeah, that's Nightmare on Elm Street 5, the Dream Child. So Brendan, is it worth a watch? A drunk watch with friends? Are you gonna attempt head trauma to forget it, or avoid it like the plague?
Listen, it's not a genuinely good movie or anything, but it's definitely a drunk watch. I think slam some back, or or take a couple puffs if you're into that. Yeah. Because there's some wild sequences, and the whole premise is
with a
just,
view.
Yes, with a view. Helena Bonham Carter starring in this film, and it's just the premise is just fucking ridiculous. What say you?
It's absolutely a drunk watch with friends. Yeah, it's not. I'm not full throated. There's only. I'll say that for part 1, part 3, and Wes Craven's Near Nightmare. Mm-hmm. Those all the rest of them are a drunk watch with friends.
Except for
and
6.
6 is actually it's bordering on head trauma to forget it.
Mm.
Actually, I might even say head trauma to forget it, because out of all of the Freddy movies, discounting the remake with Jackie Earle Haley, it's the one I've seen the least.
Okay.
So, and I mean, Freddy versus Jason, I've seen a lot of times. So that's a fun fucking movie, but that's drunk watch friends for sure. So there we go. That's that. I will stop there. Get out of here. You're done. And we're gonna pay a bill or two. But stick around. We'll be right back. Remember, these help keep the lights running.
What were they thinking?
You'd love to invest on your own, but how? Well, with Questrade, we don't just give you all the tools you need. We also give you tutorials and how-to videos to teach you how to use them. Download the Quest mobile app today and start investing in your RSP.
NPR bot, please initialize.
Okay, bitch.
Beep, beep, boop, boop, boop. And we're back.
NPR bot is very it's like NPR bot's like a baby. It's because babies are like sponges, right? So if you expose NPR bot,
they're not. I tried to wipe up a mess with a baby, and it did not work very well.
Oh, sorry. You're using the wrong side.
Oh.
Yeah. You're supposed to apply water to the other side and then flip the baby.
Oh, I was trying to soak it up
clockwise.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. But yes, I'm gonna have to talk to Milos about that. That's not the sort of language we want NPR bot.
We should really get rid of the protocol that NPR bot wants to quote movies we watch.
Yes. Certainly glad we didn't have him for Postal.
Oof.
Anyhow, it is now time for the low haiku
or loquacia.
Oh, good lord!
Yes, the low haiku.
The low haiku. And Brendan, in case this is someone's first episode, could you please explain what the low haiku is all about?
Well, the low haiku is when we take it down a notch and we enter NPR mode, as we're doing right now, and we break down the movie we just discussed in a lot less time. We do it at about 17 perfect syllables.
Mm-hmm. And as I was the plot master on this, I defer to you to lead us off with the low haiku.
Certainly. Unborn baby dreams, Freddy, a superhero, cocaine on Elm Street.
Very good. Very good.
Q.
Mine touches on some similar topics,
okay.
But less on the narcotics side.
Oh, okay.
But it is as such. Jacob is the worst. His dreams got his father killed. Should have chose Plan B. Because it was her right to choose.
Exactly. That's we want to make sure that message gets across, because I don't think the movie has that message.
No. NPR bot, if you could please initialize exit protocol.
Wake up, bitch. Beep. Oh no, NPR bot. Oh god.
NPR bot, I am upset. That is not okay.
Do you want to hear my impression of everyone in a Serbian film?
No, I don't. No, and
hey.
I will be having a talk with Milos.
Come here, son. No. Cut him off.
Get out. Get out.
Cut him off.
Oh. Get him out of here.
Whew. NPR bot. These movies are a bad influence on him or her.
Right?
Or they.
Oh, it's like my dad said. If you're gonna start acting out, you're not renting these movies ever again.
That's right. If you start doing impressions, NPR bot, we're not showing you these movies anymore.
Exactly. All right. So, but I mean, we've had our say on this. We've waxed poetical, but we don't feel that we're the we're the authority here. So we like to say a little thing around here. What is that thing that we like to say to show that we are not the authority in regards to what people should think about a movie?
Well, bitch, we like to say, God damn it, NPR bot.
Don't take a word for us.
That's sort of right. We say don't take our word for it. We don't add the thing that NPR bot said.
He's in the corner.
Good. He should be thinking about what he did. All right. Well, Brendan, this movie, Slasher, came out at part 5. So I'm guessing that the critics probably didn't care for it too much. What's the tomatoes say about that?
You would be correct. Just under a third, about 28% of the critics liked this movie.
Okay, but, I mean, Freddy's got fans, man. This thing was everywhere. There was Freddy action figures. There was Freddy's Nightmares, the television show. There was a board game. There was a video game. I mean, the audience must have came to this thing's defense.
I think the honeymoon stage was over at this point. Again, very slight uptick, but only 31% of the audience was a fan of this one.
Oof.
But I will tell you, Nathan, that if you enjoyed watching this movie, you may also like the following.
Mm-hmm.
Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. I think that's 5 or 6?
Yeah. It's number 6.
Okay, so I'm guessing no.
Not so much.
Child's Play 3. The House on Haunted Hill remake.
Oof.
The Children of the Corn movie. I think this is the one with Linda Hamilton.
I did like that, actually.
And then Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, a.k.a. Jason versus Carrie.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
I mean, I like it in not any sort of genuine way.
Right. Okay, well.
It does have Bernie in it.
Okay. All right.
There you go.
There you go.
Not Bernie Sanders, for those wondering. The dead Bernie corpse from Weekend at Bernie's.
Terry Kaiser.
Terry Kaiser.
That's his name.
Yeah. AKA, right. Of course, Tammy and the T-Rex's Terry Kaiser.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we should. Yeah. Let's see what the critics are saying. Let's see here. Okay. So, David Hughes from Empire Magazine says, despite an impressive bag of special effects tricks, old Fred is starting to resemble one of those dead horses that studio execs insist on flogging.
Okay.
2 out of 5.
Our late great friend who we never met, Ken Hankey from the Mountain Express, he wrote, better than average series entry, but nothing great. 3 out of 5.
Wow, so that's a fresh?
That's a fresh.
Wow. This one I thought is kind of weird. So Richard Harrington of the Washington Post. As for Englund, he still looks as if he's been working at Domino's too long, and he still sounds as if he's stealing his material from Don Rickles. I don't get the Domino's thing. Is it because he's burned?
Maybe.
Okay. Don Rickles, I mean, I don't get that either. He's not insult comic. He's just saying stupid one-liners.
So, I mean, he should have maybe said Henny Youngman.
Yeah, there you go.
My next one is from your country idol, Chris Hicks.
Okay.
From the Desert News in Salt Lake City. And he wrote, even horror movies need some kind of rules to go by, but Nightmare 5 is all over the map. Little more than a bizarre free-for-all. It's confusing and dumb.
Damn.
He's not totally wrong, I mean.
All right, my last critics rating is a pretty friggin' negative one. It's from Brian Orndorff of brianorndorff.com.
So, Paul Orndorff's son.
He's Mr. Pretty Good.
Yeah.
Brian says, because nothing says giggly slasher escapism quite like child endangerment and abortion discussions. Please pass the popcorn.
Oh my god. Well, my last one is a positive one.
Roger Ebert.
From Steve Newton of the Georgia Strait out of Vancouver, BC. And I'm guessing this was, it says it was uploaded in 2014, but I think it's of the time, and it was digitized on that date. Because he writes, don't wait for this one to come out on video. See it in the theater and sit close to the screen. Roller coasters are always better at the front. 3.5 out of 5.
Wow, okay. Well, I guess it's enough of the professionalism. Let's dive into the snake pit and
all right.
See what the plebeians are saying. All right, well, the first one's from Matthew J., and this is a pretty simple review. He gives it half a star, and he just writes, just imagine a piece of crap.
Okay. Well, my first one comes from Courtney K, and I can only assume that's Kourtney Kardashian.
Oh, okay.
And she writes, LOL, all right. I actually really like the whole unborn child nightmare concept, but the dream sequences where the kid is like 7 years old and saves the day, ... dumb. I like that it continues to follow Alice from the previous films, but other than that, there's not a whole lot here to like. TBH, the two Alice storylines have been good in theory, but just meh in execution. 2.5 out of stars.
P.S. Now that my sister's not dating him anymore, is Pete available? I hope he goes out with Meryl Streep next. I hope it's like somebody like way past his age. Glenn Close.
Man, if only Estelle Getty were still alive.
Oh, man. It's going to be like Shirley MacLaine.
He's dating B. Arthur. What?
I mean, the next step up, he keeps going up. Eventually, it's going to be a dead body. This review is from Nathan M. That's close. Says, the film is very weak, but there is a worse thing that makes me want to vote there. 2.5 stars.
What?
No idea. No idea.
Well, my next one is from Zach M, and I can only assume that's Zach Morris. And he writes, let's forget every Nightmare sequel. 1.5 out of stars.
Zach Morris is trash, though.
He is trash. No taste in movies.
This person's anonymous.
Coward?
Very much so. But they say, saw this last Halloween with Josh, and he decided to start acting like Freddy Krueger. He shredded my homework and my paycheck for 1,200 shekels. I was so angry at him that I kicked him out of my house. Never want to see a movie with him again. 0.5 star.
Okay.
The one before that is also, the one after that is also a review about a guy named Josh. And apparently that time he started shredding his high school diploma and birth certificate and passport. I'm starting to see a trend in this guy's reviews.
My next one is from Dax S, and I can only assume that's Dax Shepard.
My wife is hot.
And this was dumb and weird. 2 out of stars.
All right, so my last review is from Miguel Angel L. And Miguel simply says, mucho mejor y más creativa que la tuta película, pero inferior a la película. 3.5 stars.
Our apologies to our Latin American audience.
Yes, I'm very sorry for anybody who actually speaks that language. As I definitely mispronounced every word. Except for maybe mucho.
Maybe. Okay. Corin B. I got nothing. I don't know a celebrity with that one.
You
but
say Corbin B?
I wish, but it's Corin
Oh.
B. Yeah.
It's not Corin Burnson.
No.
Okay.
Or Baron Corbin with the first name last name first.
Baron Corin.
Right. They write, all Freddy Krueger movies get 5 stars in my eyes, LOL. 5 out of stars.
I was hoping you were going to say 3 or something.
That would have been bad. That would have been way better, but nope. They delivered on what they promised.
Wow. Okay.
So we've had our say. We've talked about this. Let's just kind of shuffle off this and wake up from this nightmare and talk about some good stuff. Some things that we like. That latest dance craze sensation that's sweeping the nation. What you watching, bud?
What you watching, bud? I don't know what you're watching, bud. I'll tell you so. Do 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 do.
Well, Nathan, I'm sad that you preface this by saying what you like, because this is going to be a weird recommendation.
Okay.
Let me ask the folks out there. Do you like superhero films? Do you like the budgets that usually go into them? How they look pretty fancy, pretty nice special effects,
slick.
You got your Iron Mans, you got your Incredible Hulks. Well, if you like the Incredible Hulk,
Mans.
What?
Your Meteor Mans.
Sure. Well, if you like the Incredible Hulk, you are gonna also know of the existence of a movie called The Amazing Bulk. Yes, that's right. I watched a movie called The Amazing Bulk, and this is a tongue-in-cheek recommendation, but I feel like everybody has to see this. It's on Tubi. It's 76 minutes long. It's like if somebody made their own version of the Incredible Hulk, but with the worst special effects imaginable. Like, when I say everything is green screen, I mean everything except for the actors is green screen. So if somebody's sitting at a table, the table's green screen. If somebody's showing that a rocket is bombing somewhere, it's stock footage or green screen. There is literally a sequence in this movie for, like, I swear to God, like 15 minutes where there are cartoon characters in the background. It makes no sense. And there's just a really long chase sequence with, like, random shit. It's like all the worst parts of Cool World, where there's just random cartoon things going on in the background.
Right.
But all concentrated in one scene. It's just a weird thing for me to be recommending, because it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen, but it has to be seen to be believed.
You're recommending it in a Neil Breen kind of way.
Exactly. It's free. It's barely an hour and 15 minutes. The opening credits are egregiously long for the movie's runtime. So I will say, find it. The Amazing Bulk.
Okay. All right.
What about you? Did you watch something good?
I did, actually. Well, good in my opinion, anyways. It was a little one on Shudder called "You Might Be the Killer."
Okay.
It's a loving send up. I want to say it's not a parody or spoof, because it's more along the lines of like a Tucker and Dale versus Evil. So it's a bit of a horror comedy, but it's a send up of summer camp slasher movies from the 80s, 70s, 80s. It's got Allison Hannigan in it, and what's the other guy's name? Fran Kranz, which I had to look him up because I was like, he looks familiar, but I couldn't place it. But he was in Cabin in the Woods.
Okay.
I think he was the stoner in Cabin in the Woods. I think.
Yes.
And
gotcha.
So yeah, it was really fun. This dude, I don't want to spoil too much. They're trying to stop a killer who is killing all the folks at the summer camp that he is managing and running, and he might be the killer, as indicated by the flick. He is constantly talking back and forth with his friend Chuck, who is played by Allison Hannigan. There's all kinds of nods to like other horror franchises. There are people named obviously Chuck or Chucky. There's one of the counselors is Freddy. Obviously there's like, you know, Jason's and Michael's and things like that. Nancy's. So there's fun little things like that hidden in it. Chuck works in a comic book store, so there's all kinds of Easter eggs that you see in the background while she's trying to help her friend get through it. Sam, I think was his name. And yeah, it's really fun. And it's got a fun ending too. I mean that in the best way. Like a lot of times I'll say they got it right or they fucked up the ending. This ending is fun, and at first you feel like they kind of fuck it up, but it's got a good fun ending, and I do recommend it. It's on Shudder.
What about your old pal, your old buddy Montrose Monkington III, Esquire, and friends? Minus the friends. Is he here to say a few things?
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah, just say. Hello, it's your good friend Montrose Monkington III here. And I would just like to invite all of you to my YouTube channel, as I often do, Montrose Monkington TV. And then you can also be friends with me in the Facebook group, Montrose Monkington III, Esquire, and Friends. And you can also tweet at me on your Twitter devices, at Montrose III. That's the number 3RD. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening in wrestling these last few weeks. So I'm really looking to get kind of back into it and posting some new content fairly soon. Thank you. More later. Yeah.
Thank you. More later. The NPR bot!
You do not steal my lines, good sir. I don't care if you're a cyborg.
Montrose, I'm so sorry. He's been doing this all day. We're gonna have to reprogram him.
You should talk to that Milos chap. Not only did he try to steal my shoes, but he was also being rather disgusting with his girlfriend in the green room.
Milos, you gotta chill, man. You gotta chill.
I love shoes and Mother Superior.
Get back here, big boy.
Oh, coming, darling. Oh, yes, that is. Oh, remember,
good Lord. Close the door.
My safety word is potato.
Oh, God. Turn the fan on, at least.
Oh, God. That 17 kinds of stank out.
Well, if you want to, hopefully that saga does not continue, but if you want to continue listening to our podcast as you are right now, you can find us all over the place. We're on all the podcast apps. Of course, our home base is Age of Radio.
Big time.
And you go to ageofradio.org/whatweretheythinking. You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for us. We're on Twitter and Instagram at WWTT Podcast. If you want to find us at Redbubble and TeePublic, just go search WWTT Podcast. And the same thing for Patreon, patreon.com/WWTT Podcast. Stay tuned as well, because this month we are going to be releasing a Patreon exclusive episode. Yeah. As we do every few months. And you know what? I'll just say it right now. It's Critters 2. So check that out.
Cannibalistic Boogaloo.
Yep. And I've never seen it, so it'll be fun. And then other than that, I think that's pretty much it. So I guess at this point, Nathan, I guess I have questions about this movie.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know what? I own all of them on Blu-ray, except for the remake, so fire away.
Okay. Well, in a movie in which it's part 5.
Yes.
In a movie in which a clump of cells has a dream, and it's a 10-year-old boy that can just speak normally right?
Yep, that's
Okay.
in the dream. Yes, checks out. Yeah,
In a movie that's clearly at least co-sponsored by the modern Republican Party.
George Bush's hands were all over this thing.
Whose?
George Bush.
Yeah. George Bush, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, all those people. In a movie in which, I mean, I'm saying this as a positive thing, a person that's not white actually makes it to the end of the film.
Yeah.
Let's take that out of the equation, because I don't want to make people think that I'm asking what people were thinking when they thought of that, because that's a good thing.
Right.
But in a movie in which you can just draw yourself into a drawing with a stick figure, name it after yourself, and suddenly you're in the dream. I mean, Jesus Christ, what were they thinking?
Dream.